Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about NVIDIA GPP. I feel like most of you guys already know what's up with that, but I haven't made a video really talking about it. There's been a pretty substantial update to it, so I want to give you guys that update and give my input on the whole ordeal together, and then I also want to talk a little bit about the Nintendo Switch emulator, which is already making a lot of progress, so more on that after I talk about NVIDIA GPP. So for those of you that don't know, GeForce Partner Program is essentially an exclusivity agreement where they offer benefits to partners that make video cards. Now, this is an exclusivity agreement, and that's what really is turning a lot of gamers off from NVIDIA. This really just completely stenches of what goes on in consoles, and look at how console manufacturers make agreements with studios with certain exclusivities and make agreements with certain studios for certain exclusivity rights. I mean, you look at a game like Rise of the Tomb Raider. That was a game that Microsoft probably paid Square Enix a lot of money to have that game exclusive to the Xbox One for a set duration. Now, this is a little bit different since it's hardware, and the plan is to do this at a much bigger scale, and this could be very damaging to the GPU industry. I think most PC gamers understand that. I really have not heard anyone talk about this in a positive light unless you are the biggest NVIDIA fanboy. And again, I've always talked about how stupid it is to be a fanboy of a business. These businesses are just trying to make money off of you. The only fanboy you should be of is of yourself. You should be a fanboy of the consumers and having the best option available for the consumer. And NVIDIA GPP is an attempt to monopolize the market. That's all it is. It's so NVIDIA can have an even bigger foothold in the market than they already have, and that's complete crap, since I'm sure that NVIDIA is already making a lot of money. But this is what happens. Once one entity is far ahead of the other entity, they get a little bit too cocky. They start spitting in the face of the consumer. And to take you back to the console comparisons, this is exactly what happened with the Xbox One. If you guys remember, at least here in North America, the Xbox 360 had a pretty substantial lead over the PlayStation 3, and going into this generation, Microsoft wanted to implement a lot of DRMs on their console. They really wanted to lock you down, eliminate used games, and we know how that turned out. That has been one of the biggest blunders by Microsoft in regards to the Xbox One. Sony with the PlayStation 4 allowed used games, and that really turned the tide of who won the console wars this generation, and now you've kind of seen the table shift a little bit. This is always what happens. Whoever's behind is gonna be more consumer friendly. Now Microsoft is implementing backwards compatibility, things like Game Pass, while Sony is like, nah, you should buy PlayStation now. You get the idea. I make the console comparison because that's a market I'm familiar with, but this is a commonality. As a company gets more and more successful, the more anti-consumer they start becoming, and that's what's happening with NVIDIA GPP. NVIDIA has done a lot of other garbage in the past before, but this is the most egregious attempt thus far, and I think most of you guys would agree with me. There have been reports that have come out that have said that HP and Dell are not sold on this. They've got enough money where they have a little bit of clout. But yeah, NVIDIA GPP in its entirety is very anti-consumer, and I've seen some people say, here comes Intel to the rescue with making their video card. Like, yes, in 2018, the state of the GPU market is kind of sad, where Intel has become the beacon of hope for consumers. Like, how funny does that sound? But still, you get the idea. Hopefully GPP just gets buried and done with. I haven't talked about it too much because honestly, when everything about GPP was coming out, I took a little bit of a break from YouTube, so I never gave my input on it. Maybe some of you guys thought I was just being an NVIDIA shill, because you guys know I do like the NVIDIA hardware. I mean, right now with the state of the GPU market, with the pricing, NVIDIA GPUs are kind of the only option in the mid-level, although GPU prices are starting to stabilize, so hopefully we see some competition again. And yeah, GPP in its entirety just screams NVIDIA being too cocky, screams NVIDIA just trying to be more and more anti-consumer, and at some point there is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. If you keep on doing this, consumers are eventually going to revolt, and I think with GPP, it has been the most revolt NVIDIA's gotten in a very long time. So it'll be interesting to see how this entire story plays out, but I really wanted to give you guys my input on it. Again, HP and Dell, looks like they aren't completely on board, and nobody, unless you are a part of NVIDIA or a family member is a part of NVIDIA, you shouldn't be for this. This is so bad for us that just want to buy the video cards, but you get my stance on it, and I think I don't have to speak more on that. Alright, so I rambled a little bit longer than I wanted to about GPP, but there's quite a bit of ground to cover, and I really wanted to get my point across because I haven't talked about it. But in this video, I also want to talk about the Nintendo Switch emulator. I believe I mentioned this in a previous video. It's called Ryuji NX, and it's already running games. Don't get it twisted, you're not going to be able to play Super Mario Odyssey anytime soon on this emulator, but it is already booting up games such as The Binding of Isaac and Cave Story Plus. There's already videos up, and that's pretty impressive to see considering the Switch was a very recent console, although the Switch is probably one of the more underpowered consoles in recent memory. Even in comparison to the OG PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, the Switch lags behind quite a bit. But the platform itself, it's got some good games, it's unique enough, and it really has carved out its own audience, so good for Nintendo. But yeah, it just seems like like emulators are making a lot of progress on PC. You guys know I've been covering the RPCS3 emulator, and by the way, that's seen a big update as well. The Last of Us is running even better on it. Games like Skate are running pretty well, and those games we never got on PC. So once the PS3 emulator really gets going, and that's been making just enormous progress ever since the Patreon launch, the floodgates are really going to be open for us to play a lot more games on PC. I mean, you look at all the PlayStation 3 games, and in my opinion, it has one of the most underrated libraries of games ever. I know emulators is always a little bit of a gray area, especially with something like a Nintendo Switch emulator. I mean, this is a very recently released platform with the PS3 emulator. That console released, what, over a decade ago? The Switch just released in 2017, an emulator already being developed. And if it was running games like Super Mario Odyssey really well, I mean, that would be a little bit of an issue. That's a gray area that I really don't want to tackle right now. I would not be in favor of, you know, just foregoing buying a Switch and then downloading the emulator, playing Super Mario Odyssey. I'm not about that. But yeah, that's not a debate that I really want to get into right now. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think about NVIDIA GPP? I think everybody agrees when talking about NVIDIA GPP. Again, just very anti-consumer. And let me know your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch emulator. Is this something you're interested in? Do you own a Switch yourself? Personally, I do own a Nintendo Switch. I don't play it all too much outside of the party games. But yeah, more progression in emulation is always a good thing for us PC gamers, especially if you got a beefier rig. So comment your thoughts down below. If you have a request for a future video, you can leave that in the comments as well, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.